2 years ago, I made a video showing how it looks like South America used to connect to Antarctica and how it looks like something may have busted through there. I think it's about time we revisit this topic. Now, let me start off by saying, how much can we trust these maps, especially when this one we're looking at is a globe? Now, keeping that in mind, I want to show you the 1587 Montes map. It's a real map, and you can see this would be America, this would be South America. And it appears they once used to connect just 500 years ago. Now, you might not know this yet, but I've made 20 videos on how dragons 100% existed, and they're petrified all over this earth. We walk on their remains. Here's one all in red in the west coast of the United States. It's even called the Black Dragon Reservoir, where its mouth is, and you can see this is its jaw. Here's teeth, its entire jawline, molars, there's its eye. This whole thing is its head. There's petrified dragons everywhere, dead ones. And when I made this video talking about this petrified dragon from 2 years ago, I was under the assumption that they were all dead. But some things have made me wonder, if I'm being honest. And a lot of these things have been brought to my attention by this creator on the TT platform. Go give him a follow and check out what he has to say. But I want to give you some of my thoughts based on some of his. Now, he does a lot of content on how these serpents are still alive, just dormant. And not only is there one down there, but one right up here, right by something in the news recently. Now, when I first came across this theory that there was a chance they were alive, I didn't take it too seriously, but I am to the point in my life where I don't disregard anything. And you can see how this creature looks very similar to how an alligator might breathe. And when I heard Detta's Universe talking about the hurricane patterns, hurricanes that just frequent this area and could be caused by this beast trying to suck in to feed. But it wasn't that opened my mind even more. No, it was actually when he talked about the million-ton monster algae that's poisoning everything from Africa to America. Because I live in Florida, and there's red tide that seems to appear out of nowhere and is very toxic. It hurts my lungs to breathe in when I'm at the beach and there's red tide. And I couldn't help but what they called that red tide and the remnants of it sargassum. SAR, which could mean suspicious activity report. And well, do you know any other word that sounds like gasm, maybe with an O at the beginning of it, and that is a release of fluids? So maybe not only is he sucking in and feeding, or she, maybe she's also regurgitating sargassum. And you would notice where that would come out right here. And did you see the wave and wind pattern? That's right. And here's where all that red tide, which is super toxic, acidic, almost like vomit would be. I also found this extremely interesting. He says this serpent comes through here, comes up through California, where its belly would be, and it actually bulges out. But I found this very interesting. Anchorage, Alaska is right here, where he pointed out Anchorage, where he could be anchored down, and this is the Bering Sea, and Bering reminds me of children bearing. Now, his theory is that all this activity in Venezuela is because this thing is waking up, and they're going to bomb it to try to sedate it. He's also pointed out the name of the Nagasaki bomb, and Naga just happens to be a divine serpent-like being. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have extremely mixed thoughts on this. One, I know that giant monstrosities of animals existed here. Dragons, all sorts of really wild creatures. There's that dragon in the west coast. There's even a petrified dragon down here in the southeast. But to think there might still be some of them living, it's hard to wrap your head around, but I don't totally discount it. But there's a few reasons why I think it's true and why I might not think it's true. Now, this red tide poisonous algae stuff really got me thinking that there's a chance it was alive. However, this is Mount Rainier in Washington, and I've done a video on how volcanoes and the lava that comes out of them is remnants of dragon. It's probably their insides that could allow them to breathe fire. I know that sounds crazy, but if a bombardier beetle can create liquid hot acid by combining two sacks of fluid that it has, well, so could a dragon. And the insides of dragons are what causes volcanoes. That's literally a dragon's face, and that's a volcano. So maybe that dead, petrified serpent is still just leaking out some of that ancient material. Or maybe it is sargassuming. And this, well, maybe it is breathing. But when you take a closer look, these aren't air holes or anything that anything could breathe out of. They're literally islands. Solid rock islands. And not only that, but there's a literal petrified ancient dog creature, some sort of dragon, petrified on it. And when you scroll up to this other one near Venezuela, where it would be breathing, those are again islands, one of them being St. Lucia. Now here's some petrified rock at St. Lucia. And you know what I think that is? Well, here's an alligator's snout. And do you see those spikes up there? I'm just saying. That doesn't look like anything that's coming back to life to me. But then I do come back to this 1587 map, where it sure looks connected to me. And like I said, I did this video 2 years ago, so it's at least been disconnected that long. Now, I might not have a final verdict on this, but I do have some final thoughts. And that is whether this thing is dead and petrified or gonna come back to life and wreak havoc on the world we know, it doesn't matter. The end goal is to have no fear, because fear is the enemy's #1 tool. And if you give in to fear, and you live in fear, and you act out of fear, well, then you've lost. Maybe we're just here being tested to see which side of things you choose, and maybe this is our final reckoning. Because after all, Revelation 13:3 of the Bible describes one of the heads of a beast receiving a seemingly fatal head wound, which is then miraculously healed, causing the entire world to marvel and follow that beast in worship and allegiance. Now, I always thought that referred to someone that got an ear wound, but maybe, just maybe, it's talking about another beast, another Bible verse to think about. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of it. Now, go check him out on the TT, and I give credit where credit is due. Of course, all this for entertainment purposes. I don't really think that petrified or living dragons exist. No, I live on a spinning globe. I evolved from a chimp, and some Big Bang created us all. Definitely not the Heavenly Father. Entertainment only.